When Horry County wanted to taxi planes to a new terminal, they had to call a cab. Meet the driver on this morning's Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce at 1200 North Oak Street here in the heart of Myrtle Beach. We're focused on the Community Appearance Board, and we're visiting with its chairman, Larry Bragg. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I should have said the City of Myrtle Beach's Community Appearance
Correct.
Board, which is a very important distinction because obviously not all communities have a Community Appearance Board.
No, unfortunately not, but we hope they will in the future.
Yeah, it really is necessary, isn't it?
It truly is.
Mm-hmm.
They've made some overtures in North Myrtle Beach to realize the importance of it. So I'm expecting great things out of North Myrtle Beach in the near future.
You think that?
I'm very optimistic.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal.
It is. And, you know, Conway has an architectural review board for their downtown, which was a major step. So it's coming of age.
Around the Palmetto State, do most good-sized cities, 25,000 plus, have a Community Appearance Board?
In some form or another,
right.
Especially if the area has a historic district. I would venture to say, though, that Myrtle Beach is probably the most well-known and perceived by many people as the most powerful.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. Around the state?
Yes.
Son of a gun, Larry. That's a big deal.
It's a very good deal for the city of Myrtle Beach because Myrtle Beach is maturing as a city, and the Community Appearance Board has quite a bit to do with that. So I'm very pleased.
Real quick about yourself, Larry. Are you originally from the area?
No, my mother was from South Carolina. My father was Georgian. I was born in Georgia, but I've been here over 40 years now.
Over 40 years?
Yes.
So you're probably a local by now.
Pretty much. Pretty much. It feels that way.
In Myrtle Beach for all 40 years? Is that right?
The Air Force brought me here originally.
I saw that you were a veteran of the U.S. Air Force.
And so when I got out, I couldn't think of another place to go, even though I love Savannah, where I was born. I decided to stay here, and I'm glad I did.
That's fascinating. For viewers who may not have been here when the air base shut down in '93, did it really have a big impact on the community?
No, it really didn't. Myrtle Beach was very unique in that it didn't suffer tremendous financial loss like a lot of communities do. And many of us who were serving on the chamber and various boards and commissions around the city, while we loved the Air Force, we loved all that it did, and we missed it emotionally, it was really the right thing to happen for the future of Myrtle Beach. So I was very pleased. The only thing we're really lacking now, because all the people want to come back who are veterans here, we would be very well served by Veterans Hospital here, I think.
That's interesting. The little facility that's an extension, I guess, of
It's
Charleston.
magnificent what Henry Brown was able to accomplish out on the base. But, as far as something like Ralph Johnson in Charleston, we really could use something like that here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I was hoping the old base hospital at one time was going to be utilized, but that wasn't meant to be. So I'm still optimistic.
The opportunity for the Robert Spear facility for nursing and allied health there now, it'll at least still be put to good use.
I'm very glad of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting to go out there now and see the barracks gone and the dining hall and where my office was. It's all torn down now, but it's fascinating seeing the growth with Market Commons and all, and I think the brightest chapters of Myrtle Beach are still to be written.
How long were you in the Air Force, Larry?
5 years.
Is that right? Yeah, so you were on the Myrtle Beach Air Base for a good bit of that.
And then after I was on Myrtle Beach for the whole 5 years, I didn't realize it, but when you got out of the basic training, then you went to tech school, the Air Force had something called a dream sheet, and you were able to put down where you'd like to go. And I put down Honolulu, Shaw Air Force Base, and Myrtle Beach, and got Myrtle Beach.
Is that
right? And stayed the whole time because I operate a computer, and everyone kept getting discharged who knew how to operate it, and it was about as large as this room. So,
oh, your computer was?
Computer was. The keyboard was probably 3 times the size of this coffee table.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
Why?
That's what you had 40 years ago.
Now, how did you operate a keyboard that's 3 times the size?
Have you ever seen someone play a church organ with all of the buttons that you're having to push and go around? It was similar to that, and then you had a separate room with computer disks made of paper or mylar that read the information. You would have to do data processing punch cards. It was all very prehistoric, as far as what you have today, but it was fascinating. And I remember someone saying, the computers are your future. And I thought, if I can ever get rid of this sucker, I don't want to have anything else to do with them. And it's probably a phase, so I said no. So I got out of the computer operating business, and to my regret. Yeah, absolutely. You could have been another Bill Gates here in the Myrtle Beach area. The money would have been great to have given away, as he has done. He's a magnificent human being. Really has. You think about philanthropists on the local level, and we had a guest with us recently who's helped with a group of other dedicated nonprofit folks form a chapter here of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, I believe, and I think they do an annual event to honor the philanthropists of the year. But you think about so many folks and the ability to give back and continue to give back. Oh, they do. And in spite of everything, I'm still optimistic that people are basically good, and they want to help those less fortunate. So it's reassuring at times when bad news hits us all, as it does, sometimes on a daily basis. But I'm still optimistic. You have to be. Oh, yeah, very definitely. What was it about the Myrtle Beach area in particular, Larry? Think back then when you could have gone back to Savannah, which was a pretty mature community then, and been back there. What was it about the Myrtle Beach area that made it had a magical feeling? Really? It was a very small town. If you wanted to shop, there was a tiny little Belk's in the downtown area. There was Sears, where the pizza place is, where you could go in and look at appliances. Any major shopping, you'd go to Wilmington or to the mall in Conway. One radio station that really was great in the summer, but during the winter it would cut off at 6 o'clock. The newspaper, would be weekly. Then it would go to 2 days, and then as the time went by, actually seeing after Labor Day the boarding up of the restaurants and all, and the turning off of the traffic lights on the boulevard, it was just a magical experience. You could get out and walk the boulevard, walk the beach, and feel perfectly safe. Go to Sloppy Joe's and eat lima beans and rice at 2 in the morning if you wanted to. And that feeling, despite all our growth, is still here, I think. There's still a magical feeling about Myrtle Beach. Those are great words, Larry. I don't think I've heard anyone share those words. I mean, folks that have been here a long time. Jack Thompson was with us recently, and to hear him talking, and clearly he's seen the area, much like yourself, obviously many more years than you, but I hadn't heard him use those words, that magical feeling. For someone coming out of Savannah, which is oftentimes many consider a magical city. It is, and it still is. And it will always have a special place in my heart, but Myrtle Beach is home. I wouldn't have met my wonderful wife had I not come here, so I would have met all the great people and seen the growth of Myrtle Beach. So things happen for a reason sometimes. I think I saw that you and your wife have a real estate company together? Yes. Yeah, that's exciting. Was it clearly the growth opportunities, and that's a great segue into real estate. That opened the door for you to look into real estate? Well, not really. After getting the computer bug out of my system, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went out to Georgetown Tech, and it was, in its infancy. And there was a course called Hotel, Motel, Restaurant Management. Which there still is. There is, and it's a magnificent program. J. Rowe and the folks out there. But it wasn't just cooking. It was public speaking, it was English, it was math. I mean, it was everything for 2 years. So I thought, well, that sounds fun. So I did that for 2 years. Then I got out of that, and I thought, no, I don't want to work in a restaurant. I did that my early teens, and I don't want to be a desk clerk. So someone then finally suggested, well, what about real estate?
Yeah.
And that's how it started.
It's
sort of fell into it.
Yeah, it's amazing how many folks find real estate in the area. I was at a restaurant recently upstairs visiting with the owner there, and there was a FedEx driver who used to work there who said he'd now started a class out of the Fortune Academy. Last week, we were actually out of the CCA, at the Coast Carolina Association of Realtors, and had Charlie Brendel and Larry Biddle and some fun folks. But to be out there at one of the classrooms of the Fortune Academy and to see their operation out there, it's amazing.
It is, and the growth of that, because my wife was one of the main organizers of the Myrtle Beach Board of Realtors, from the things that grew out of that.
Right.
She was the first female realtor that had her own business in Myrtle Beach.
Is that right?
And that's been fascinating now, because now the females outnumber the males. But it's fascinating to hear the stories, because she started before I did, when you had, maybe 20 members of the board.
Right.
Now you have thousands.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be if you didn't have a real estate license, you've only been here 72 hours. So, but it's fun, and you get to meet great people and make some lifetime friendships.
Absolutely. Of course, much of our focus today, and I hope you'll consider coming back to be with us tomorrow. And I'm glad you mentioned the Chamber. When you were active, even coming out of the Air Force, I think I saw you'd served as a Vice President and Treasurer. Was that the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah. So a lot going on with Ashby Ward.
Ashby was the, we didn't call him
the
president at that time.
Right.
He was the executive vice president at that time.
Okay, yeah.
And yes, we were over on Kings Highway, where the Chick-fil-A is now, and that was probably early to mid-'80s. And it's been fascinating now to watch the chamber mature. Everything is coming along.
It really is.
At the helm of this chamber is Brad Dean, who I think does an absolutely magnificent job.
Oh, yeah.
And he's certainly a crowning jewel of Myrtle Beach now, and I think if anyone thinks he's going to run for the border, call me and we'll send a posse out to get him.
Stop that, right?
He's wonderful.
He'll be with us here on Wednesday and Thursday. We're excited to get him in. And then later this week, Vernie Dove will be with us to wrap the week up, who, like yourself, have been active volunteering for the Chamber, and a lot has to happen. Of course, in reviewing some of the amazing awards you've gotten in the area, I think Vernie's gotten a couple of them as well. The Sun News Citizen of the Year at one time, the Volunteer of the Year from the city of Myrtle Beach, and obviously you've got on and on the Alumni of the Year out there at your alma mater at Horry Georgetown Tech, which is tremendous. Man of the Year. How many folks can claim they've been Man of the Year?
That was a nice honor
to keep South Carolina beautiful. That's tremendous.
That was very nice.
I think I saw there you had served as their president at one time. Is that during your tenure, overlapping tenure here with the City of Myrtle Beach's Community Parents Board?
Yeah, that was with Governor Riley.
Right.
I went through Governor Riley and Governor Carroll Campbell.
Right.
And then a bit with Governor Hodges. So those were very nice appointments, and we established quite a few boards around the state. So it was fun.
You've also stayed active to a good degree, Larry, I believe, in party politics. Is that right? I think I saw here you were twice selected as a South Carolina delegate to the Democratic National Convention.
Yes, that was a fascinating experience.
That's a big deal.
And fun if anyone gets an opportunity to go, regardless of party affiliation, either to the Republican National Convention or the Democratic Convention. It's certainly well worth the trip to go. If you know a delegate, you can go as a guest. Or,
is that right?
Or get active in the party and go as an alternate if you can't get elected as a delegate. But it's very fascinating to watch the political process unfold.
Either party, you stress.
Oh, absolutely.
The Democratic or the Republican Party. Yeah. What years?
Some of my best friends are Republicans.
And probably some are Democrats too.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What years did you attend?
96 and 2000.
Is that so? Both within the last decade, 11, 12 years.
Yes.
That's tremendous. Yeah, that's great. We think about, of course, the Community Parents Board, and obviously a lot of folks we've been hearing a lot about the Community Parents Board recently with the Myrtle Beach International Airport and the impact that the CAB, for short, had on where the airport would eventually land, or excuse me, where it would eventually be located. Share with viewers a little bit about just exactly what is the City of Myrtle Beach's Community Appearance Board, when was it formed, and what's its mission?
Well, it's been formed for a little more than a quarter of a century ago.
Okay.
David Stradinger, who used to be the city manager, and Sam Burns, who was with the city. They came up with the idea after viewing it from other communities and decided to pitch it to council at that time, and council went for it. It's changed quite a bit through the years. It used to be that if the applicant didn't like a decision of the Community Appearance Board, they could wait 6 months and then go get the permit. So consequently, there was a several-year period there where people would come in for permits on September 1st.
Right.
And then, obviously, it would be turned down based on the lack of style and no landscaping or whatever. And come January, they would start building it, and getting the permit. So that was tightened up by council. We were very pleased with that. And then there was a time when, if you didn't care for the decision of the Community Appearance Board, you could go and appeal it to council. And council could override the decision of the board by at least 4 votes. Then the courts and the legislature got into the act and said that your Community Appearance Board, you don't have to have one. But if you do have one, they're a quasi-judicial body. So the appeal from the board has to go to the courts, which by and large the council was quite relieved of that, because it saved them from having to fend off people who, for some reason or another, didn't like the decision of the board.
Right.
Put themselves into uncomfortable positions. So it's worked rather well. We've been criticized at times saying, well, you're an appointed board, how can you make these decisions? But so many things around this state and country are appointed by elected officials who have much more power than the Community Appearance Board. Just locally, we have our city magistrates, our city judges, our Highway Commission on the state level, all of them with billion-dollar decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Solid Waste Authority for the county.
Horry County Solid Waste Authority.
Absolutely.
Those folks are all appointed?
All are appointed. No one elects these people. But they're appointed by elected officials to do the best that they do. And I'm very pleased with, say, the Highway Commission. We've had 4 or 5 representatives from Myrtle Beach area.
Oh, yeah.
But none of them were experts in highway construction.
Right.
But they had a burning desire to help our area, and they all did extremely well.
Sure.
I don't remember anyone complaining, saying, well, they were appointed, so therefore they shouldn't be able to make the decisions when we were getting great roads out of it.
When those dollars were coming back to ORE, finally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line there, and I can certainly understand the frustration if a person is turned down by the board, thinking they have to go to court. But I tried through the years to treat everyone equally and fairly,
right,
and give you some suggestions how to come back and perhaps common ground to get approval.
Now, when folks come to, how often does the Community Appearance Board meet, Larry?
Twice a month.
Twice a month, okay. And normally, can citizens come in front of the Community Appearance Board? Is it principally architects and others?
No, it's always a mixture.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a representative of the applicant, sometimes the applicant themselves. And if it's a large project, the architect will come along with the owner of the project. So it's always a mixture. It's also open to the public. We have some members of the public that just come and observe it and say it's the best show in town. So if anyone would like to come and observe and see how CAB works and how we make our decisions, they're certainly welcome. It's always the first and third Thursday of each month. Okay. 1:30 at City Services Building.
Great. The first and third Thursday of each month, and you said 1:30.
1:30 at City Services.
And that is the one
Oak Street and
Mr. Joe White,
yes.
Very close to here, obviously.
Absolutely.
Okay, so 1:30 at the City Services Building, the first and third Thursday.
Right.
That's great.
Unless there's something major where there will be an overflow crowd, in that case I'll move it to the law enforcement center or something like that.
Sure. And you had some overflow crowds recently, I suspect.
A few times on the airport, yes.
Yeah. And you've been on the board how long, Larry?
About 24 years now.
Oh, come on.
About 24.
Is that right?
Yes.
As an appointed position now, this is appointed by City Council.
Yes.
So clearly there have been different members of council over the years that figured out you knew what you were doing. How about some of the other members of the board? How large is the board again? You said nine members. Okay.
Right. And it's made up of a great cross section of the community.
Right.
We have a architect who's a principal in one of the major firms around town. We have a lady who's the owner of a company that builds high-end residential and commercial property.
Is that right?
We have homemakers. We have small business owners.
Right.
We have landscape architects. We have a commercial realtor. So it's a very good representation, cross-section of the community.
I've got to say, some of the members that I've come in contact with, particularly during the course of the airport, it was definitely not done. I mean, during the course of the debate, definitely not done in a vacuum. Hearing Ben Brown oftentimes saying, "Well, what do you think about it?" I mean, really seeking public input.
Yeah, he does.
To make sure that, and I'm sure all the members really seeking public input.
There was
to want to have
no
as much interest.
flip decision made on that airport.
Right.
Had we wanted to, the first time they came and were turned down, that would have had to have been the end of it. But the applicants at that time were not prepared, so they were granted another hearing, and then another workshop, and then another hearing. We tried everything to allay the fears of the board. I really say that the board did yeoman's work on this project. Because at the end of the day, we are charged with the quality of life of Myrtle Beach, and we are the Myrtle Beach Community Appearance Board. And we take that very seriously. And I think the proof is in the pudding when you drive up and down the streets of Myrtle.
Right. We've just got a couple of minutes, Larry, and hopefully you'll be willing to come back with us tomorrow to share a little more about, because I think a lot of viewers would be interested in knowing just what happened back whenever they originally talked about putting the airport at that location. It seemed like, and I'm sure a lot of people remember some pictures either in newspapers or TV stations of the county council, both Mark McBride and Chairman Gillen there with shovels, shoveling stuff out. I remember I was out there, it was right behind the Herald's office there on UG and Shine, very close, and to see those folks out there.
Were you going to lose your office at one time?
I was,
thanks
Keith Bellamy, and others coming to talk about it at the time. The chairman and the mayor working together to. That was when they were talking about a 3,000-foot separation between runways, and of course the police training facility had just been constructed. Divine Dining moved in right after me there. Out on the air base and the VA, all that. A lot of folks work. It was very depressing to Vinos and others. Very depressing, talking about a 3,000-foot separation. And of course, seeing all the airports around the country, Larry, that if they need a second runway, rarely ever more than 1,000-foot separation. So surely a lot has come into play. At the same time, that terminal, a lot of folks had known about it or thought it was going to be there. I've seen a lot of McCaffrey's drawings and the Market Common drawings where they have airport to be completed in such and such date. So surely a lot of folks had thought about it, but there's
there was no presentation that had come before the Community Appearance Board prior to that. And if you remember, you being in this business, besides the TV, the newspaper, you saw that there was never unanimous support from county council. At each phase they went, sometimes you weren't even sure it was going to move along with the vote. There was not overwhelming support from the city council at that time. The city, however, did change the zoning for the PUD there, which allowed them to seek permission for an airport on the west side. The city did not grant it and then take it away. There's a major difference there. The county, in its infinite wisdom, decided they did not want to go back to the city, so the county specifically requested that the Community Appearance Board be part of the process.
Is that right?
Yes,
the
it is.
county?
The county specifically
when was
requested.
that, Larry? Was that?
This was back in the original document.
Okay, back in
2004.
Right.
So when they specifically requested it, that's why I was so shocked when I would read the things in the paper that it's an appearance board. How could they do this? What are they charged with? If they specifically wanted it, I would have thought one of the attorneys would have read the ordinance for the City of Myrtle Beach Community Appearance Board, what we're charged with and our objectives.
Right.
We knew the Market Commons was coming along. They were actually coming on board. We were actually approving footprints there.
Right.
They were turning dirt. With the back and forth with the city and the county on that, we never knew if that was going to happen or not. Back several years ago, when the idea was floated, there were concerns at that time from the board as far as the closeness to the Market Commons and the residential.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Larry, I got to say it. I hope you'll come back and be with us tomorrow on Tuesday morning. We've run out of time. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. A little more Larry Bragg coming up next. Carolina People. Service to his city, almost a quarter of a century on the Community Appearance Board. Service to his state. Think about all those activities and the awards he's received throughout the state. That comes after hard work. Comes after lots of hard work and dedication. Service to his nation as a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. That opportunity bringing him here for 5 years, serving here on the air base, and to see the experiences, the love. You heard him talk about the magic of Myrtle Beach. What a great phrase. We ought to think about using that sitting here in the lobby of the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber may run with that, the magic of Myrtle Beach. Those are special words coming out of one man's mouth. With a board being around here almost a little more than a quarter century, his service a little less than a quarter century, there's a lot more than you can get in just a 30-minute interview. Come back tomorrow for part 2 of Larry Bragg.